If you know Fullerton never switched, and it was. Yeah, I
wonder who brought that up.
Well, you did.
So you get to see
I know,
two
and
views
that's
of
why I
the
wanted to
executive
do whether
committee members,
that had been.
the front view and the back view.
Good question.
I guess I can take the camera.
I didn't bring all my minutes.
That's why.
We're using the phone for the front, but we don't need to show the back. Okay.
But then you would have your back to the slides. So.
Yeah, we're gonna need this slide.
Okay.
Much better be.
All right.
Are we ready to go? Everyone
Peggy, are
raise their
you-
hand. Yes.
Yes, we're recording.
Okay.
Okay, so Chairman Reiner, we can let you.
Okay, good morning. It is October 15th, 2024, and we're here for Far West Texas Regional Water Planning Group Executive Meeting. So it looks like we have a quorum.
Yes, sir, we do. And Peggy, would you mind putting the agenda up on the screen? So as Peggy's putting that up, we can just read in the first agenda item. And that is public comments. So we don't of the public, but if anybody wanted to say anything right now, they could. Okay, Chairman Reiner, we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 3. So we do have our team from, we have Jennifer Jackson with Corolla, and then James Albright, as well as Crystal Williams, and they're with Friesen Nichols. And then we have Heather Rose, our planner. And then in attendance for our executive committee members online is Teresa Todd. Thank you, Teresa. I know you have to step out in an hour. And then here in person, we have Scott Reiner, Dave Etzold, and Dave Hall. The Daves. So, okay, so Peggy, I'm going to turn it over to you now to read in agenda item 4. I'm going to make a call to make sure that we've got our quorum for this afternoon, so I'll be right back.
Great. So are you able to see this up on the screen, the agenda, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So now we're on agenda item 4, review and approve the minutes for general meeting held on September 10th. Oh, wait, that's the general meeting. I'm sorry. Whoops. Very sorry, kids. Too many agendas on my horizon here. Here it is. Okay.
Well, and then you had the draft agenda out too.
I know. Yeah, here we go. We've got draft after draft. Here we go. Okay. So we're on item 4, review and approve the minutes for the executive committee committee meeting held on September 10th.
So moved.
Oh, is it? No,
It says right there.
it's review and approve.
Update from Canola on the discussions.
Yeah, but this is part of the minutes. Right now. And we're in the minutes right now.
Right, but I was looking at the update question.
Okay, I'll wait till then. It's fine. Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Attaboy.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Discussion regarding the minutes.
I think
We had an item number 7 on the minutes that we wanted to make sure that we got a report back from Carrillo and Associates. If you could just confirm that item 5 is going to be a discussion about the WUG versus census tract assessment
By Fullerton.
by Fullerton.
Is that going to be included in item 5?
Is that today's item 5 or the item 5 that we're talking about on the minutes?
No, it's today's item 5 on the agenda. We're just asking if we're going to talk about that under item 5. If we're not, I want to bring it up now.
Okay, well,
Really?
Jennifer or Heather, will you be Well,
So
Heather
under-
and Jennifer, sorry.
Yes, so under
Somebody speak.
agenda item number 5, I was planning on updating the executive committee members on where we're at with that study, what I've received, what conversations I've had with the board, and what items I'm going to propose to the group to consider for next steps.
Okay, so you're going to address the Fullerton census tract process versus the Water Development Board WUG process.
So I'm going to address the one Excel sheet that I was given, and I'll share it on the screen so you can see it. Outside of that Excel sheet that just lists population projections for various years, I have no idea what Fullerton did with his approach or methodology. I've not received a draft report that gives me any more insight, but we can cover that in Agenda 5.
Okay, so we don't know if he's swapped from the census tract process over to the WUG process.
No, I'll share what I got, and it's just an Excel sheet, yeah, with data.
Okay.
So what was there a task? Was there an action item?
No, it was just Scott brought that up, that there was a differential between the two.
Yeah,
And
so
he brought that up
I
last time.
think, I know that he's presented some information. Now, whether or not it meets the Jennifer and the board's, the TWDB requirements for the effort on what Tom Fullerton did, I don't think Jennifer knows quite yet.
Okay,
But I think she's going to brief us on what she's received
okay,
and maybe advise us in seeing. I would have to think that Tom Fullerton, being a demographer, that's the right word, has rigorous methods to support his population projections. But Jennifer has not seen those yet, so
okay.
I think a report is forthcoming. I think this is what he gave to us was a sneak preview of what's coming.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see what.
But that's what Jennifer's gonna maybe say what I said, but we'll see. Okay, so I think we're on item 4, and I asked if there's any discussion on the minutes.
That was all we had.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more discussion.
So no more discussion. That's all.
So,
Ready to call the question.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Teresa said yes, okay. Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we're on item 5. Update from Carollo on the discussion had with the TDUB regarding the timing of UTEP population study, impacts to the IPP deliverable, and consideration of the management supply factor as an option. This will be with Jennifer.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and see if we can use some of the slides that I've prepped as just discussion. And let me, oops, sorry. Let me just see if I can get my screen to share.
Text of her presentation.
Well, it's looking kind of grainy on my end, but y'all tell me if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, so just to kind of give the executive committee members an idea of what we've been, what I've been working on for the last month since we had our last meeting, is how to coordinate this population study coming from UTIP into the regional water plan. And as we had mentioned in the last meeting, it's getting harder and harder to get it implemented in. So we drew some, deadlines. We said at the end of September or the latest, early October. And that would allow me to kind of coordinate with the board on what that draft report looks like and his approach and methodology, and see if we can get the population department at the Water Development Board in a meeting with us to look at, the approach from the WUG-based, which is the Water Development Board's approach, and what we speculate Dr. Fullerton did, which was city blocks or city limits. And so having not received anything to that extent, I went ahead and had a meeting with Heather and others at the Water Development Board to just talk about, what other options do we have that we can consider that allows us to continue to be on time with our March IPP deliverable. And so what we are proposing is, I did receive an email both from El Paso Water and the COG with the same Excel file that Dr. Fullerton has developed for us. And I'm going to share that now, just so you can kind of see what I got. And so basically, can you see my screen okay?
You can see your cursor.
Did the Excel sheet not come through?
PowerPoint, but
Oh, man. Okay, hang on 2 seconds.
Is it the same? Is it the same spreadsheet, Jennifer, that you sent Annette and me the other day? Because I've got it.
right.
Or we sent it to her.
Yeah,
Okay,
this?
yeah.
that.
Give me
Okay, you all have
just
it.
a
Okay.
second. So what is being shared right now? Is there anything being shared, or have I lost the sharing?
Nothing is being
I
shared.
just
Lost it.
see all of us now.
Yeah, me too.
Just make sure when you
Okay.
hit share to share your whole screen. Sometimes if you select just a specific window, it'll only show that window.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it did. And entire screen, let's just do that.
I don't think you distributed that sheet to us, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like it's trying to share. Do you guys see anything?
See the slides?
We're looking at
Do you see the
updates.
PowerPoint now?
Yes.
I
now
mean,
we see
the
PowerPoint.
Excel sheet?
Yeah, the Excel, yes.
Okay, good. So this was the Excel sheet that I've received. And, not really having a lot of time to dig into it since I received it, I think it was like October 9th. What I can tell from the look of it is, he has a process, he has an approach. He's providing us population data from 1989 all the way through, I think it was 2075, which the planning goes to 2080. So there's 5 years here that, I don't have data, or we keep something constant. He's accounting for residential birth and residential death and a natural, increase, net migration. What I don't know, which to Scott's point is, what is the approach and what is the methodology? That type of information that would come in a draft report where, he's going to detail to the reader how he came up with this, where he got his information and his conclusions and findings. I don't have that. So, we are getting closer and closer to a deadline where we need to approve our chapter 2. Not only that, but if we're changing something in that chapter, how many other chapters does that impact? And as of today, we are approving a handful of chapters so that we meet our March deadline. So having all that information, I met with the Water Development Board, and what they're proposing, which is, an option that I really do like, is that we look at this management supply factor. And what I think we can do, hang on 2 seconds. Yeah.
It's up. Oh, it was up.
Are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So options to consider is we will include Dr. Fullerton's final report, maybe as an appendix to our 2026 Far West Texas Regional Water Plan. that allows us to have the same deadline, March 3rd, probably that meeting in February, so that we're, seeing it as an attached appendix to our plan and we're approving it. But that gives him extra time to get that report finalized, and it doesn't derail, the work that we need to be doing and the deadlines that are in front of us in order to get each chapter of that draft IPP completed. So that's an option for y'all to consider, is continue to move forward as status quo with our, scope and guidelines according to the Water Development Board, and then attach his final report to the back of our plan. And that, allows me to go into various chapters and just, again, reiterate, that the planning group wasn't exactly pleased with the initial data that came from the state, and feels that, the report by, as appendix whatever is a more accurate reflection. And those sentences would be determined after we really had a chance to look at the report. In the meantime, we
Jennifer,
could consider, yes.
a couple of questions here. I have one, and then one of the Daves has two. So I was just wondering, I used to have a boss that would, if I did something, he would say, "So what?" So I'm going to say the "so what" test. Is the UTEP data any different than what we're already going to go with? And is it even worth the bother of posting it as an addendum, if you will?
Right.
If it's substantially the same, I don't even see the bother. What are your thoughts on that comment?
So
Well,
just to remind the group, I got this information on the 9th of October, so I haven't had a lot of time to dig into it.
Okay, that was my question. Now Dave has two questions.
So Jennifer, the first question is along the same lines as Scott, so you could probably answer both. What's the source of that left-hand column in that spreadsheet that says El Paso population projections?
Your
And is
guess
it
is
the
as good as mine.
Is it the same as the demographics, or is it from the Census Bureau, or is it from some other?
I'm going to answer Jennifer for Jennifer. I don't think she knows. She just sees
No.
these numbers.
All she sees is that.
We need
So
his
there's no
method-
reference to
we need his methodology.
Yeah, so I'm just showing you what I've received as of the 9th of October so that you're aware of exactly what I've gotten. And it's really hard to determine. And without some draft report that provides those types of details and insights, I have no idea.
So without the attribution of the numbers, where they came from, I would be reluctant to put it as an appendix to our data. We just need to be sure that if we do add it as an appendix, it's got the proper footnotes to validate the source of that information. Okay, that's my question. The second one is, where within the chapters are we going to reference the appendix being added so that people can go check to see if there is a discrepancy?
Okay, so to your first comment and or question, my proposal was to add UTIP's final report as an appendix, not just the Excel sheet, but his final report. And only would we add it if we think, to Scott's point, that there's some significance to it that's worthy of adding it and worthy of mentioning that there is an extra data set somewhere. So that's to be determined. I don't know yet.
Jennifer, is the time taken to review that gonna take time away from any of the other tasks? I mean, we're looking at a deadline. Is that the wisest use of time?
So I can tell you, I'm willing to do whatever the planning group wants. And if this is important enough to have in your plan as an appendix, because there's a significant difference that you all desire to be seen and recognized as part of your regional water plan, I will make the time. The reality is the task and the budget for chapter 2, which is where population and water demand is focused, we don't have any more budget. So my effort is either pro bono or it's hitting other areas of the project where I know that I'm well ahead of the game and I don't need all those funds for that particular task. And I'm using some of that to supplement, this. So I guess the bottom line is to David's question, chapter 2 is our population and water demand chapter. It's where we focused on our population and what was given to us by the Water Development Board, what our heavy survey process produced, and then our request to modify some of those projections were definitely approved by the Water Development Board, and that allowed us to change our projections to better reflect the surveys that we got back from those WUDs. So if this becomes an appendix and it's worthy of being in our plan, we will mention it in chapter 1, which is just a quick summary of each of our chapters. So it could be seen in chapter 1 right away for the reader. We'd go into more detail in chapter 2 about, where it came from, who did the report, and where a reader could look for that report as an appendix. And we would also want to mention it in chapter 5 when we're doing our water management strategies. Even though we're not going to use perhaps the water demand that would come off of these population projections from UTIP, we could in chapter 5 also point the reader to that appendix and have some kind of write-up around, if it's a significantly higher population projection, we'd want to point to that and account for that in our water management strategies. Which leads me to my next point, if there's no other questions. Okay.
Would you repeat the chapters that it's going to be mentioned in, chapter 1 and 5?
Yeah.
1, 2,
1, 2, and 5, I think are definitely, and then we could consider chapter 8, which is our policy recommendation chapter, if we want to put something in there.
Thank you.
Regardless of using the report as part of an appendix or not, I think what we're all really trying to accomplish here is planning for uncertainty, right? So there is an option in the Water Development Board's guidelines, which fits our scope and our budget, where planning groups have this flexibility to address uncertainty. And that's basically what we're trying to tease out with a study that we haven't seen, the final report of, is what if the population is greater than what we had to approve, in our chapter 2? How does that impact water needs and when those needs come into our planning horizon? And how do we develop water management strategies well to accommodate those needs? So this, option of a management supply factor allows us to plan for this uncertainty. So regardless of that report being an appendix or not, depending on what we see at the end of the day and if there's a significant difference to even include it, I do propose that we go ahead and incorporate a management supply factor so that we are taking a very conservative approach to uncertainty. And we're trying to plan for this uncertainty in population. So that's the purpose of the management supply factor. And the rules around using that management supply factor is that the planning group may choose to identify and incorporate a predetermined management supply factor beyond just meeting those identified water needs for WUGs and major water providers. This flexibility allows for us to account for these types of uncertainties: projections of populations, projections of water demands, climate variability, potential drought that's more severe than the 1950 drought of record, yield of recommended water management strategies, and other uncertainties. So right off the bat, even though we've never really utilized our management supply factor in previous plans, it does actually help us account for this population projection uncertainty. And the board outlines, how we would calculate for that. And I don't have any examples of like, okay, if we take, the town of Benton and we run this equation for the town of Benton, what does that look like? Today, I'm just proposing this as an option. If it's something the planning group agrees would be a really good way of addressing this population uncertainty, then at my next meeting with y'all, I'll have some examples for us to go through. But basically, this equation is a plug and chug. You'll get your management supply factor by taking the total volume of existing water supplies for a particular WUG, adding that to the total volume of those recommended water management supply amounts, and then dividing that by your total identified decadal water demand for a WUG. And it provides you a number like 1, 1.1, 2, 2.1, and it's that management supply factor is creating a buffer around the uncertainty of our population. So instead of El Paso, needing X amount of water to come on in 2030 to take care of the water demand that is sheerly being calculated off of that population, what this will do is create a buffer on that population and say, well, if that population had a management supply factor of like a 1.0 applied to it, that water demand increases by X amount, meaning the strategy that needs to come on to account for that population, and the water demand is buffered by 10,000 acre feet, 15,000 acre feet, 20,000 acre feet, whatever that is, equating to that management supply factor. So what you've done is you've said, according to the population with this management supply factor tied to that need, we've increased it a bit for some uncertainty that we think is there. And we've made sure that we're going to have a water management strategy come on to take care of that increased volume amount, assuming there's more population in this, equation than what we have approved in our chapter 2. So it just is a conservative way of accounting for some of these uncertainties that we think exist in our population projections. I'll kind of pause there. Heather, is there, anything else we should add to help explain that? Mm-hmm.
Yep, Jennifer, I had a comment, and it is that I know when we do groundwater modeling studies that if you do your modeling and pick one exact number, that one exact number is always going to be wrong. But what we're embracing now is that a range of numbers that we feel pretty confident that our populations are going to be in this range, our demands are going to be in this range. And I think it just kind of highlights that when you do long range planning or groundwater modeling, there is uncertainty. And I think sometimes we forget that, and we say in year 2050, we're going to be exactly 1.1 million and 50 people, when that's, you're selling incorrect assumptions that you're exact, and this is not exact science. And we're kind of embracing the uncertainty and telling the world that there is uncertainty.
Right. And I will add to what Scott is saying is we've actually done this with El Paso Water's integrated water management strategy report, which is a separate report than our regional water plan, but it's a mirror image to it. It's just all wrapped around El Paso Water instead of all the other entities in Region E. And what El Paso Water's board members have agreed upon is just that. We don't know if our water demand and therefore the supply volume coming on these water management strategy is exact enough because it's based off of a population estimate. So what El Paso Water has wanted to do historically is say, let's build a buffer. Let's say we need somewhere between 10,000 acre feet and 15,000 acre feet more in case our population estimate isn't perfect, which it's not. It's just an estimate, right? So now El Paso Water is coming up with water management strategies for a water demand that's a little bit higher because we've buffered those numbers conservatively. And they're guaranteed that when they bring that strategy on, that water is going to cover, well, the number we have in our plan for sure, and any uncertainty around that number. It may be higher in reality, it may be lower in reality, but at least we've got enough water coming on to support that, that uncertainty. So we're taking that same concept and proposing to do it across the whole region. And that way we've built a buffer for each of the WUGs and all of those water management strategies to account for this uncertainty in our population. And in essence, I think that's going to do the exact same thing as waiting on Dr. Fullerton's final report and walking through that exercise. I think we get to the same end goal.
Jennifer, if you, in your review, conclude that Dr. Fullerton's population projections are very similar to what our adjusted TWDB numbers are, do you still recommend attaching those numbers to the project?
So I haven't had time yet to do that kind of analysis. If the analysis produces very similar values, it's up to the planning group members to determine whether or not they want that as an appendix. And part of me saying that is, I'm not sure how you're going to want to use this study in future plans. If you feel like it's a great place to spring off of in the next planning cycle as evidence, that maybe the board's projections aren't as accurate as you would like them to be, then I say, yes, we include it. If it's not a significant difference, and you don't want to add it, that's fine too. So just think about the next planning cycle after we determine whether there's a big change in projections or not, and how you want to maybe use that study. You've paid for the study. I don't know if you want to use that study in future plans, in which case I think we should add it, to our submitted regional water plan.
I think even attaching that report shows that in the world of population projections, there is uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that kind of highlights that, go to one doctor, get one opinion, go to another doctor, get another opinion. So anyway.
And I think it tells the story that the planning group members weren't 100% in agreement that the original data coming out in that census was accurate. And, you've taken the extra step to hire someone to kind of do a second opinion on that. I think it helps to tell that story.
So Scott just stepped out. So either way, and continue the meeting chairing, but are there any other questions about this agenda item?
No other questions?
I just had a comment. Sorry, my audio cut out for a minute. Did anyone ask me a question during that time?
No.
But we recommend that y'all use this strategy. It's already a tool that planning groups can use, and it's a great tool for addressing uncertainty, the different uncertainties that groups have. The only comment I have is that VR variable there, that's up to you of what you think is appropriate for your WUG. So I'd imagine Jennifer did some analysis for each WUG, say El Paso Water of like, hey, we think we need a buffer of, like Jennifer was mentioning, 15,000 acre feet, 20,000 acre feet. That's completely up to y'all. But yeah, we think this is a good route for now.
Okay.
Heather, we appreciate your support of this whole process that we've gone through. I don't know if it's unique around the rest of the regions, but for us, as you remember, we were a little shocked by those projections from the Austin firm. And so the response from you all has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Other regions have used this for, it wasn't for population uncertainty. I believe it was for climate variability uncertainty, but it's definitely a tool that can definitely be used for population uncertainty. Because to Scott's point, that's a big question mark, right? And there's a lot of uncertainty with population projections, but we're happy to help.
You missed a comment, Heather. Scott was out of the room. Could you say what you said again about variability in the WUG? So Scott's back and I just want him to hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to repeat, I'll repeat that VR variable in there, in that formula, that's up to y'all to decide. So say El Paso Water as the WUG, they will decide, hey, what is that buffer volume of water that we want to apply to our strategies? And as Jennifer mentioned earlier, it could be 10,000 acre feet, 15,000 acre feet, 20,000 acre feet. That's up to y'all to decide.
So what I was proposing to do, Heather, and you can kind of let me know if this is aligned with maybe some of the other regions. It needs to be done. So this calculation needs to be done per WUG. And that'll help me come up with a starting point. So for El Paso, VR is X. For Lower Valley Water District, VR is X. I can have an Excel sheet or some handout that I provide at the next meeting. And then the conversation is, El Paso Water, do you agree with that amount? Or do you want to increase it or decrease it? And that's where it gets custom fit. And then depending on those conversations and what everybody's, agreeing to, that then solidifies kind of what that management supply factor will be for that particular WUG. So I would come with a starting point and it would just kind of initiate some conversation to determine what ultimately that management supply factor should be. So I think what I wanted to just kind of make sure before we get into our general meeting to kind of help corral many voices is, do you guys agree that this is an okay option to move forward with that would provide for that uncertainty regardless of using UTIP study or not? Because we have to determine at some point when we get our hands on that study if it's worthy of putting in as an appendix or not, but to not delay, the precious amount of time that we have in hitting our deadlines to plan for this uncertainty. We could use this management supply factor and still be sure that our plan is accounting for population that, we knew was going to be a little bit more than what the board's original data set revealed, and even a little bit more than what our survey results revealed. So if it's an approach that the executive committee members like, it will help to, take care of some of the questions that may come up in the general committee. If it's not an approach you want, it'd be better to know that now before presenting it all, in the general meeting.
I think
I
it
would
should
say-
be presented. Yeah, I agree with it.
Okay.
I think, Jennifer, your comment about each WUG gets a custom fit, something
Yes.
they're comfortable with. We're gonna kind of base it on their previous concepts of previous plans. Population data now, we're introducing uncertainty. I don't think they should have anything to really worry about. My feeling
Okay.
that we're embracing uncertainty, and that actually makes it a plan that's maybe more realistic. A range of supplies needed in the future instead of one exact. I think it's
Jennifer, Dave, at some point, if you're going to make changes to chapters 1, 2, 5, 8, in order to include the appendix, there has to be a decision date down the road somewhere where you say, at this point, I cannot make any changes. Is that in November? When is that?
So the agenda item and the language that we're going to use this afternoon in the general meeting is providing me a little bit of flexibility, even though we're going to approve our chapter 1 and approve our chapter 3. It's providing me a little bit of flexibility to continue to work with WUGS or the board on finalizing, small amounts of data in the chapter or just language. But ultimately where that line gets drawn is, I don't have the schedule up with me, but Heather, when is the final regional water plan due? Like,
October 5th. Let me pull up my slides.
so even if it goes out to the IPP submittal and we've got places in there we want to fine tune, the board gets like 60 days to review the plan and provide comments back to the technical consultants and the planning group members. And then we address those comments. So we actually have, time between the IPP and the final submittal to finalize language in each of our chapters.
Yeah, and what
And-
we'll be looking for is kind of hitting key milestones in our checklist, things like, did you use the water management strategies? Did you follow the general rules? But things like an appendix, that's definitely can be very flexible. And that date is October 20th. So 5 days in a year from now, October 20th, 2025.
Okay. What was due in
2025.
March?
The draft, the IPP.
Okay,
So, yeah.
so if we want to put something in the March document in the draft, do you need to have that by November in order to be able to do that, or are you still flexible on that?
So we could still put stuff into our plan. I mean, especially if it's just minor changes to language. After we submit our March draft to the board, between that March deadline and that October deadline, we have some flexibility there to fine tune language and address the board's comments. But we have to have a public meeting, like we have to present, what our final is going to be. I would say August, September, because we have to submit this in October. So August or September, there needs to be a meeting where we're presenting to the planning group and to the public what our final is going to be. So pencils down, for that meeting. And then we have to take public comment. Is there any public comment? And there's like a public comment period on our proposed final. So I would say to your question, we have some flexibility between our March submittal and our October submittal, but we need to back up our October submittal to have a regional water planning group meeting where we allow for public comment. The material being presented at that meeting, pencils down. There's no more flexibility.
So there's effectively a lot of time for Fullerton to finish what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I was proposing it as an appendix. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
So we finished with item 5 then?
I think so. We're on to item 6. Consider Far West Texas Regional Water Planning Group membership dues for FY25 and FY26, October 1, 2024 through September 30th of 2026.
Yes, and Peggy, will you be able to pull up that item? Peggy's pulling that up. I'll present this agenda item. We're asking for our members to once again contribute to the cause of administering the Far West Texas Water Planning Group. And we are asking for additional funds as compared to our previous 2 cycles. The increase is a 6.8% increase. So we're asking for a total amount of $64,892. And we would distribute those additional costs as they are represented by the percentage of their population to the total region. And so when Peggy's pulling up the Excel sheet, that will show what the amounts look like. And one thing that I did do, which is really arbitrary, so I'll just make that known. With regard to our ground water districts, they were previously paying $300 membership, and now we're asking them to pay $500. So those entities would have an increase of $500 or $200. El Paso County Water Improvement District, I left that amount the same only because they have historically paid a greater proportion of the dues in terms of those districts that are identified in that manner. And so I don't have any rhyme or reason behind that necessarily. It's just they've already been paying a higher amount, so I didn't think that it was in our best interest to increase those costs. But the other entities that you see in colors, those represent by county. So in Brewster, there's 2. In Culberson, there's 2. In El Paso, there's several. Hudspeth, there's 2. Jeff Davis, there's just 1. And then in Presidio, there's 3. And Terrell County would just be 1. So again, it would be a 6.8% overall increase to the budget. And that would just allow us to continue the efforts that we're making in terms of our administration of the program. Just like many other organizations, our costs have increased. And so we're asking for consideration to allow us to recognize the cost of $64,892. I can answer any questions if anybody has any right now.
And that just one, is there any overlap in WCID 1 for Hudspeth and the entry down below for 500? Is that a different entity or is that the same entity?
So Hudspeth County Water District, that's one service area, and then everything else is within Hudspeth County. So they're 2 distinct.
It's 2 distinct entities.
Yes.
Okay.
The one thing that I also wanted to note is that if you look at our total population, I'm only showing 812,643. And the reason for that is because I backed out every water user that's not part of our membership, because we've been putting them in, but we don't ask for payment from them because they're not, in many instances, they're private. And so I thought it'd be best just to keep it cleaner and just only use those that have been historically members of the organization. The other thing I wanted to note is that, again, you won't see Horizon Municipal Utility District because they have chosen not to be members and they continue to not want to be members. So I'm not going to put them in with the idea that they would hope to join this time around, because I don't think there's any change in that. They used to pay.
Used to pay a while back, but not for like 3 years or something.
It's been about, 4 years.
There's nothing in here for Fort Bliss either, is there?
No, because they won't pay for that either.
When Elsa Cushing was here, we were paying.
Really?
Yeah, when Elsa was the board member, we were paying that because she
Okay.
put it out of her budget. But after she left, they couldn't.
They dropped it.
I think it would be a challenge to get it back. I know it's been a challenge to participate in any way, so I think
What happened if Verizon had changed their attitude?
we used to have Bonnie Morehouse who would attend the meetings and she would report back to the board, but she's no longer on the board and there just has not been the interest. And Horizon City was paid for that cost of Horizon, but they're not a water user. It's Horizon Mud who's the water user. So the city didn't think that it was fair for them to be shouldering the cost when Horizon Mud is.
And the Bud contact we have is,
I mean, we can try again if any of you would like to assist me in having a meeting, but it's been difficult. They just. Interest.
okay.
Teresa, do you have any questions?
No.
So do we,
So I would just say that I will report this out to the general membership at 1, but I wanted to inform you all first of our intentions, and if you all had any concerns, questions, I can answer those now in preparation of the meeting.
is the draft agreement intended to document each one of these?
Yes.
So the draft agreement will be filled in
Yes.
appropriately for each entity
Yes, sir.
once we agree.
Yes.
And when would they be served with these?
So do we need,
As soon as we get approval, we can do do that because Peggy will be on top of it, not like Annette, so it'll get sent out timely.
So do we want to say that the executive committee recommends an approval to the general membership?
If that would be your desire, that would be our desire.
Yeah, let's say that,
And I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I'm assuming that there's inflation, so they're gonna have to pay more. right?
Yes, yes, and
So
so,
I would think the membership would like to know in a overall statement for everybody, costs of things are going up in the group and express that it is going to be, we try to minimize the cost increases, but express it like that and expect to see a new revised cost at the amount of X%,
Yes.
something.
yes.
I think that would-
6% to me is reasonable.
Overall, it's 68%, but as an example, El Paso Water, who is our biggest contributor, their amount might be, it depends on each entity. So you probably will see a higher number than 6.8%, but overall, it's 6.8.
And so, and I think it's important to address all the membership, including us, when these agreements come out,
Yes,
when we're expected to pay.
yes, sir. We will do that as well.
She has a hard time shaking the money out of me. I try.
It's interesting that out of the 64,000, 58, 56, 600 is what El Paso Water.
So now we
And that
figure
may
out,
be useful to note that
I know how to,
in the general meeting.
it's just a matter of getting the right people to sign the right letter to get them the money.
Yeah.
But it will.
Yes,
And he sent it to me,
yes, yes. I will do that as well.
my staff Desiree, she's not in our department anymore, so.
Ooh, okay.
Based,
So
based
it's
on
gonna
the
be-
chairman's comments, I make a motion to approve.
Favorably recommended to the general membership.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that will be my, that's all I have for today.
Okay, I just want to mention that, is there any way to get these numbers earlier? It would sure be better if we could get them for the entities when they're doing their budget process, because we will probably hear from the entities, even though it's not that much of an increase. For the smaller jurisdictions, we will probably hear from some of them that they budgeted lower numbers because that's the numbers they had during their budgeting process.
You're right, Teresa, and I will have to recognize that. I think the one thing that we would have going for us is that this would be for 2 years, so for sure we're ready to go for 26. But we will definitely get on board with this and have it ready in July, because that's when they're doing their budgeting. You're right.
Right. And I guess, we can just say we didn't have them then. We can't control when we get those numbers from the state. So,
Yes. Okay, we'll make sure that we do that. Thank you. Peggy, is there another agenda item?
7, next meeting.
Okay, consider and discuss a date for the next regular meeting, and in parentheses, November 7th.
Yeah, we'd already picked November 7th and we picked Alpine. I guess you've already got it scheduled for BBT.
Yes, yes. We just have to, I gotta pay my dues, but after that, we're good to go. So yes, it will be an
What
outline.
time are you going to set up?
Jennifer, do you think we'll need an executive committee meeting? In
No.
November? No. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll have it at do you want to say 1 o'clock or 1:30? What's easier for you?
Central, 1 o'clock Central.
Central.
That's 1 Central's great.
1, okay. Okay, so we'll have it set for 1 PM, November 7th in Alpine at Big Bend Telephone.
I'll actually be in El Paso for a CJAC meeting that morning. So I'll need to zoom in from El Paso for the meeting in Alpine.
That's so funny. Okay.
Right.
That's fine. You need to do that. That's fine.
So it's gonna be in Alpine, you have the location set?
Yeah. it's
Yes,
a big
we'll send that out, but it's,
Sure it is.
yes, we're gonna say that.
Okay.
Okay. Big Bend telephone conference.
Okay, well then I think if that's all, then. Chair Ryan,
Okay, item 8, adjourn.
who wants to make that motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Any discussion?
I don't think so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
All right, well, thank you, folks, and we'll
I'm
see
sorry,
you
look at Dave.
in just a little bit.
Well,
Well,
like to ask you,
give you an hour
go
and
to
a
the
half.
airport, and then, that's right.
Thank you.
Hi.
So, we've got Subway coming.
Sounds great.
Peggy, I'll see you in a bit.